In this video, we'll learn how to create banners for your websites. So I created a number of different banners for my different websites, and it helps the viewer distinguish one website from another. It also helps the developer understand where they are. So you'll notice the variety of banners and so forth here, which relate to the content that's being discussed. So as I go through these different websites, you'll see that there's a variety of different ways to create the banners, but the general idea is to have some kind of a picture at the top of your web page and have it appear on every web page, and have that picture be something which is related to the field that is being described in the website. When creating your banner, you want to consider the aspect ratio of the graphic that you're going to use. I recommend making them 1,000 wide, 1,000 pixels wide. That's the width of the standard websites we're going to be developing. And if you make your banner 1,000 pixels wide, then it'll fit into that parameter nicely. This one here is about 1,000 wide by about 180 long. And again, it doesn't take up too much real estate, but has enough of a picture there to tell the story. So when we're working here, the first thing is to look at some images. Now you can see by these pictures of my grad student Kevin and myself here, these were taken with a white background, and of course the green background is a normal screen that we use to do the chroma keying, but we can extract that white background from our face, and so our face can hover over the image. So you'll see that this picture here resides on the 619 web page. So that picture was just cut out and placed as a layer on top of that. Now, what I have here is a number of pictures that might be suitable for making a banner. If you look at these ratios, obviously these aspect ratios are not appropriate as is. But if you look, like for example, at the image that was taken right here of the Dolomites and the Alps, I didn't include this entire image in the banner. But what I did is I cropped this so that just that portion would show, and you can see that right here in the banner itself. Is that I cropped it so it includes the horizon, which tells the story that I want it to tell. So the first task is to select a suitable image, and again, you might want to select some public domain images. Wikipedia and Wikimedia are sources for a lot of free public domain images. Whenever somebody signs the agreement to post something on those resources, they release the rights to it. Somewhere in your website you might want to attribute the picture to the actual photographer, but you can use those without a problem. So as you look at some of these images here, when you're trying to select an image, you want to select one which is going to have a story to tell that's relevant to your curriculum. So if you're doing biology, you might want to choose this picture of a cross-section through a nautilus shell. Or if you're teaching physics or astronomy, perhaps this picture through a galaxy. If you're doing anatomy and physiology, maybe this picture of the neurons, or the picture here of red blood cells. If you're trying to teach an engineering component, maybe something with a rocket taking off, or chemistry, something that shows some kind of molecular structure. So as you scroll through these images, you'll see that I've put in here a variety of images that I think would make actually decent banners. Now, something like this image here works fairly well because it has a nice horizon. In other words, you can take this out, and there will also be some black space on here in which you can title it, as well as some blank space which you'll use for the search window. So if you were to examine these photos here, you'll notice that when we're making the websites, you're going to have a search window so you can search your site. Now, you can move this search window around, but you need to make sure that there's space on your picture to allow for it. So for this activity, I'm going to choose one of these images. I think I'll choose this one here of a nebula. And we'll look at this right here, and the key thing you want to make sure is that your image has sufficient resolution that it will show up well on your website. In other words, it has to be at least 1,000 pixels wide to start with. And if it's like 3,000 or 4,000 wide, that'll be fine because you can move it back and forth and to position it to get to the image that you want. So if you were to choose something from my website of banners here, or to choose from the website out there in general, or better yet, to take your own photo, you simply just download the image, and when that image is downloaded, you can then import it into the graphic editing software that we're going to use. So these banners that you see here were all made with a free editing software which you're going to find in Pixlr. So again, if I type in there pixlr.com, and Autodesk makes this, it'd be wise to create your own account over here. And then we're going to use the Pixlr editor as before when you did the chroma keying. So you'll launch the Pixlr editor. Once your image is downloaded, or if you're just referencing it from someplace on the web, you can use the import image from the URL. You simply open that image as before, and you can use that image for now for editing the banner. The next thing you're going to want to do is to open other images that you might want to layer on top of your background image. So for example, you should import your chroma keyed background right there, and maybe other images like the seal of your school or whatever you want to put onto this website. So just to review, that this seal here has already been, the background has already been removed, so we can import this directly onto the image. This one right here still remains in its original state, and so if we select the background color and delete, we can see it turns white. And you might say, well, why don't I see the checkerboard over there? And that reason is because the background by default is going to be locked. So if you import a picture, as soon as you want it in the background, you want to double click on that, then you can just delete that again, and you'll see that the checkerboard background indicating it is indeed a transparent image. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that this image here is only 19% of its size. So this is a huge image that's going to have to be cropped or reduced down in size until it fits onto the banner appropriately. So for doing this, you're going to take a look at the image itself. So you're going to go to the image size, and you'll adjust the image size appropriately. So this one here is 3100 pixels wide, so that's obviously way too wide for anything we're dealing with here. I'm going to reduce this down to, let's say, 350, and we're now seeing this very tiny, but if I was to view this 100%, you can see the relative size of it, so it looks like it's going to be pretty close to the size you want for the banner. Same thing on this image over here of the seal. Okay, we're viewing this 88%. That's obviously getting way too large if it's going to fit on a horizontal banner like that. So once again, we can take that image and we can look at the image size, and you can reduce it down. And this time, I think I'll reduce it down to maybe like 200 or so. And again, there's a little bit of trial and error involved in this to try to get to the right dimensions. The next thing we want to do is to crop the background. What's going to be the background for the image? In this case, the North American wall of the Cygnus Nebula. So I'm just going to enlarge this right here. You see I'm only viewing this 66%, but I want to be able to create a banner which is 1,000 pixels wide. So for this, I'm going to use the crop tool, and I'm going to choose a portion of this which tells a story with an aspect ratio of about 5:1. And when you crop this here, you'll now have, take a look at this. If you don't like it, just undo it, Command Z, use the crop tool again, and get to a perspective that you do like. And once you have something that appears the way you want to, you're ready to go. The next thing to do is to adjust this image here to 1,000 wide. So you can go over to image size right here. And in this case here, the width of this is only 898 pixels. It should always be higher than 1,000, because if we start to expand this, we're trying to add information that doesn't exist, and so it'll become slightly pixelated. When you're this close, it really doesn't matter too much. So we're going to go ahead and do it here. And so you see I have about a 1,000 to 200 ratio there. So this is now the banner background. So now the idea is that we want to make sure that first of all these things are independent layers rather than the background. We can double click on those and unlock them. You can look at the seal here. It's already in a layer. And then we should be able to take these images and drag them onto the background. So for example, the seal here, if I was to open the seal, I'll just move it over here, I'm going to drag the layer from here onto the background so that that seal now appears on that background. I can move that by taking the seal and positioning it where I want to. So let's say I want this to appear over here. That's going to appear over on the left side of my my banner, and now I can put in my my face and so forth as well. So I'll take this and drag this image over here. Again, clicking on the layer, making sure it's unlocked, and now I can drag that picture over where I want to. Now these things are going to be layers, so you can see right now I'm in front of the seal and in front of the North American wall. So I can position myself by looking at these layers. Right now, just to clarify, I'm just going to name those here. I'll call this the North American wall of the nebula. And this layer right here, we're going to name here, this is going to be the CSUN symbol, and this one over here is going to be myself. And so if you wanted to see how things looked, you can simply reposition those. So if I put CSUN in back of, in terms of just repositioning things, I can drag these around and get different types of effects. So if the North American wall is on the top, everything disappears. If just this symbol or the school seals on the top, then this one and the North American wall appear, but the North American wall is blocking out me. So if I drag this up over here, now I'm in back of the symbol, or in back of the CSUN seal and so forth. So if I drag myself up to the top, I get the desired effect. So here I am in front of the seal with the North American wall behind me. Now, in this case, we want to be able to reserve some room for the search window and for text. So if I was to look over here at these other ones, you'll notice that I can have a search window over here, and it still leaves me a lot of real estate for putting some text onto the page. So next thing is I want to do is I want to identify the class, and for this is going to be using the text tool. So the text tool is right over here. Just to show that a little bit more clearly, you can see that the text tool is that capital A tool right there. So if I select that, I can start typing. In this case, I'm going to type the name of the class and my name, and I'm going to type them independently so I can move them independently. So let's say I put here, let's say this is an astronomy class. Okay, so let's say this is Astronomy 101. Now, while this is still selected here, I want to change the color so it clearly shows against the background. So if I select this, I can choose from a variety of different colors here. So I can choose from the traditional color wheel. So for example, if I want it to appear red, I can drag it over here and then move this cursor here over to the desired color. So by dragging it up here, that's going to be red, and red can vary anywhere from totally black over here to red through white. So it's important to drag both of these dots until you get the color that you want. So if I select that, we can see that it's Astronomy 101 is right there. And that's pretty small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that here and I'm going to enlarge that by simply using this tool right here. And the idea is that we want this to appear larger. This obviously is looking now through a microscope view, and that's not the way we want to have to look at things. Instead, we want to be able to take that text right here and be able to see it normally. So I'm just going to increase that until it's about the right size that I want. Now, this Looks okay. I'm actually in this layer. This layer now is the Astronomy 101 layer. We now have 4 layers because the Astronomy 1 is on top of NORM, which is on top of CSUN, which is on top of the North American wall of the Cygnus Nebula. So what I want to do is I want to take this here. I'm going to click on Astronomy 101, which allows me now to edit that layer. And if I click with the text tool here, I could say, you know, I really don't like that color, or I don't like that font, or whatever. And so I could change that to whatever font style and so forth I want. So, you know, choose something that's to your liking. And then again, select the color and realize you can select from by adjusting the color tone here, and by adjusting the red, green, and blue balance, by looking at some of your standard web colors, or by selecting from the image itself. So this is actually selecting a palette of colors from the image. So if I select one of these, like this gold, that actually is a color out of the image itself, and you notice it matches some of the border of the nebula and so forth over here. So I prefer to do that latter one because then it looks a little bit more natural. So if you look at the 4 options, selecting the image will pick out the various different color hues that it finds naturally in that photograph, so it doesn't look so unnatural and kind of canned. So when you clicked on this, you now can adjust that. Again, go to your positioning tool, which is this little crosshairs right there with the arrow, and you can click on that, and then you can reposition that layer up here to where it's going to be visible. The next thing you want to do is you want to put your name on this as well. So in this case, I'm just going to again select the same tool I did before, which is the text tool, this A right here. And now with that text tool, I can just say here, Norm Hare. That's way too large and the color doesn't work, but not a problem, because I can adjust that, first of all, the size by taking this and just saying, you know, I want to reduce that down. And then I want to choose another color that may be in the image. So I'm going to check over here, click on the image tab as well, and then find one that contrasts well with mine. I'm going to choose a gold again just because I think it looks fairly good on this thing, and then basically use the positioning tool to position it where you want. Now you have a banner which you can put on that page, and you've still allowed some room for the search window. Again, you can move these things around wherever you want to get the appearance and so forth that you desire. You don't want it to get too cluttered, but you do want it to be able to tell the story. Okay, the final thing to do is simply to save this image. So if you go to File and then Save the Image, we're going to export this one right here. I'm just going to call this right here that Astronomy 101, and export it here. I'm going to export it all the way up here at 100% quality, which probably won't make too big of a difference, but it's still only 236 kilobytes, whereas before it started out at maybe 50 or 60. So if you're dealing with very slow networks, it might be advantageous to save it at the lower quality, but you know, with most high-speed networks, it's not going to make much difference. So I'll click OK, and then put that onto my desktop, and then I can import it into my website. So once you've created your first banner, you might as well make others while you're at it. The only thing you need to do is to perhaps change some of the pictures. So let's go ahead. In this case, we're going to import an image. Let's say we wanted to import an image. Let's say we wanted something with chemistry. So I'll choose a molecule there. And now the molecule is imported into this page here. And we could take that and double click over here again on that padlock to make sure it's a layer. And then move this out of the way and drag the layer onto that image. Now, I can move this around, and you can see that the size of this, it doesn't really matter because I can reposition it how I want to. So let's say I wanted it something, you know, like such. Now I can do is I simply have to label this one right here, call this chemistry, and then in this case I'm going to move chemistry down in front of Norm, and you can see that its Norm here appears here. And to make things a little easier, I'm going to enlarge this window so you can see the various different layers I'm working with. So if I move it down and back of astronomy, now you can see astronomy appearing in front of Norm. Now my face appears, and then in front of the seal appears. So I've created another one, and now all I have to do is to change this, or actually I don't even need to change that. I can drop that down to the bottom here and just create an entirely new layer, which I'll call right here, and call this chemistry. Again, the color I'm going to choose for this, I can click on here and choose something. These colors are going to be one that appear in the graphic behind me. So again, the colors will appear natural if I choose those. So I want something with a lot of contrast. I'll probably just choose the white in this case. Click OK, and click OK. And now if I drag chemistry up, the chemistry 101 in front of that, it appears just perfectly the way that I want to. Again, if I want to change this text over here, I would simply find that particular text, which is Norm Hare, and then use the text tool to highlight that and adjust it with a color also that appears in here. Or again, I could choose one of the stock colors and so forth that's there. So if I wanted to match some of the colors here, I might choose like some of the CSUN red or whatever, and it's going to appear as such on the page. When you're done with that, now all you have to do is say File and then Save. And this time it's going to save that JPEG. We'll just call that one Chemistry 101, and you're going to click OK. So you can repeat this for as many different images or for as many different banners and so forth as you want to create. So again, while you're at it, just start to put more images and so forth in there, rearrange them as you so desire, and get the products that you want. Okay, the final thing we need to do is to actually move those banners into your website. So to do so, you're going to adjust the entire site layout. So if you click on the gear and you go over to Edit Site Layout, you'll see a number of options here to change the width and so forth. Again, we suggest that you change the width to 1,000 pixels because that's the way that you adjusted your graphic. And if you don't choose that, your banner's not going to fit into the prescribed space. So change this to custom over here to 1,000. And then next thing you're going to do is click in this site header zone. So it's a very narrow zone right where the text appears. So you click on it, and that pops this menu. And we're going to choose a custom logo. So by choosing a custom logo, it's going to allow us to select a file, which I'm now going to grab off the where I've saved it, and I'm going to select that one. And when you say, yes, that's what I'd like, if that's the one you choose, it's going to then appear right there nicely fitting into your website. Okay, there's a couple of things we can do with this. First of all, this text appears redundant, and also we may want to change the position of that banner. So if you click on the banner again, you can change the alignment right here between the theme font. Maybe you want to have that at the bottom. You can see if that is the case, it's going to appear below this, and it's not really at a very appropriate spot. Again, by clicking on the banner one more time, changing the vertical, you could change it to the middle. And again, you could adjust the horizontal position and so forth to get to something that's going to appear the way you want it to appear in your final page. The second thing that we want to do is you want to remove this text here. This is the default text that appears at the top of the page when you don't have a banner. So to get rid of that, you're going to click on the close button right here, and you're going to go to manage the site, because in manage the site we can simply turn that text off. So once that comes up, just turn off where it says show the site name at the top of the pages. When you click that off and you save, and then you return to your program over here, you'll see now that it appears nicely fitting in here onto each page. Now, regardless of which page you go to, if I'm on 619, I'll see it. 625, I'll see it. 600, I've seen it, because I've actually adjusted the entire website. And this is the way we want this. Now, some of you may have chosen templates for your websites that don't look right. And the banner doesn't fit correctly. So for example, if I click over here on Manage the Sites, I can choose a variety of different themes. So if I click on Themes right here, the theme that I have chosen is the Launch Default. Okay, right over here you'll see where it says Launch Default. That's only one of many different types of themes you can choose. Well, if you chose some of the other ones, let's say ski, that sounds nice to me because I like to ski. But if I save that and then I return right here, this may or may not look good. In fact, if you look at this, it's maybe hard for you to see, but it's not actually lining up well. If we were to click over here, you'll notice that the picture actually exceeds the white parameter there of the page by some amount, and it's not lined up here to the left, so the whole image is skewed here from where it should be. This problem will be much more visible if we also adjust the colors. So if I went to Manage Site and change the colors, you'll see this problem in a more pronounced fashion. So I'll go to Themes and Colors, and in this case I'm going to adjust the color of the page. And so if I choose not the theme color but my own, which is generally not a good idea, okay, as you'll see, let's say I choose something like this, looks pretty awful, and you go back there, you'll notice now that there really is basically an offset. Now, although you could change that in the HTML, and there may be some other ways to change it, that's probably not the good way to go. It's probably best to choose a theme which actually fits based upon its own cascading style sheet. So I'm just going to go back over here, and I strongly suggest just using the Launch Default unless you can find one that works better and looks more appealing to you. Again, you can change the colors, but try to stay within reason so your site looks professional. So we can see right here that the green stuck. It looks terrible, but at least now it's all aligned. And so we can go back in there and under the Manage Sites, and once again, once we've managed the sites, we're going to go down and adjust the themes and the colors. We can go down here and adjust that back to the theme, or adjust it to whatever color we desire. And once we're done, we have a website which looks professional. The images fits in it, and it hangs together. Anytime you're in that page, no matter what page you're on, you'll see the same banner.